Hi, I'm Becky.
And I'm Lindsay, and here we're today talking all about knowledge and what to share and what to keep. I think there's this preconceived idea that sometimes when you've got lots of knowledge, you need to prove it, you need to share it all with everybody, and in some situations that's true, but we're very much looking at it from a teacher, coach point of view, particularly within the arts. There's a real danger to just putting your knowledge onto somebody.
Yeah.
It can lead to the other person feeling intimidated, overwhelmed, trying to keep up, feeling like they're not good enough, they've got to learn more. We need to have the knowledge to empower and support and grow the people that are in front of us. It's not our job to just go.
No, we don't need to blurt it all out.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not. You'll have some people that want to know more, and you can give them more knowledge and more info, and there'll be some who don't even want any of that.
Mm-hmm.
They want all the knowledge that we have and what that results in.
Yeah.
Without knowing the knowledge, they just want the results.
Yeah. So how do you stop yourself blurting your knowledge onto your, I've got the word, brain's gone dead. Not mentees, your students, the people that you work with, that's the word, students.
Coaches, mentees, students.
Coaches, mentees, students. How do you not overwhelm them with your knowledge, and why is it important? So it kind of goes a little bit, I'm not going to go into it because we're not trained in psychology, but we've read a lot about the psychology of learning and the processing of it, and it goes back to this idea that we're here as facilitators to build curiosity. And if you impart knowledge, it just means that they're going to go, I need that, I need that, I need that, I need that, and take word for it. They're not going to develop that want and yearning for knowledge themselves. And so it's this idea that we're there to kind of drop a seed, or to open a little door, or to open a little box for them to want to know what's inside and to go and delve deeper. Yeah? So if you have someone that comes to you then, Becky, that wants all the answers, how do you deal with it?
Well, I tend to let them know that I have a ton of knowledge. I don't have it all. Never going to have it all. Be wary of the. We both did that.
Yeah.
Be wary of the teacher or of the person who says they have all the answers.
Come to me. I know how to do it. I can fix it. I can solve all this for you.
It's a bit. Yeah, I get nervous about those people because it means they've stopped learning, which means they're going to miss out on so much stuff. I like to say I'm able to help people a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I like to explain what credentials I have so that they know that my knowledge is sound and my knowledge base is sound. I then always ask, how much of the knowledge do you want to know? Do you just want to improve that voice, or do you want to understand more about how it works? And then I start getting an idea of how much knowledge I need to impart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so then comes the problem that when you're working with a student, they look to you for the answers, and they look to you to solve their problems for them and to give them that knowledge. Now, in some cases, you have to give the knowledge first to open up the line of inquiry, to open up the thinking. You've got to give some, because it's particularly if you're in a group, you've got to ensure that everybody can access that, rather than just going with one person's interests or one person taking over with their knowledge. So you've got to make everybody feel empowered, so giving everybody a knowledge base to work off.
Yep.
But then it's your job to question them, to find the answers for themselves and give them the tools to find the answers for themselves. Now, those tools might look very, very different depending on who you're working with, what it is you're trying to achieve, but it's not on you to give them all the answers, because if you do that, you're not encouraging them to be curious. You're not encouraging them to be independent. You're not encouraging them to reflect on their own journey. You're not encouraging them to know that it's okay that they've got to work at something to find it out. You're giving a quick response, almost like computer game.
Yeah, but you're not helping them with their creativity.
Nope.
You're not helping them with emotional connection, expression, any of that, because they're doing it by you. And no. Just no. I've written loads about that.
Yeah,
that's where I have to be careful. I'll get on my soapbox and I don't want to.
It's all right. It's what it's for, isn't it? It's fine. So how do you do it in a session then? How do you not fall down that trap of just giving them the answer? It's about having lots and lots of different types of questioning techniques. It's about having lots and lots of different resources available to you so that you can pull in from different directions to maybe go over here, to come back, you know, to swoop around.
It's also about how you structure a session.
Yeah.
Because 9 times out of 10, if you know where the session is likely to be headed, you make sure at the start of that session, that subject area is all covered in that first little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So that when they then have to go and figure out the answers and the solutions to the things that they're struggling with, you can get them thinking back to what has been looked at the start of the session.
Yeah. Yeah, and then they're engaging in their journey rather than just rushing through it. Because then it's coming back and it's involving that reflective practice.
And you get light bulb moments. I love it when that happens.
Yeah.
People go, oh, that's why we've done that.
Yeah. So what sort of questions can we pose in our sessions then, if we're going to give some tips to people and things to try that can open it up to those students?
So if it's something that they are looking at, like, what would you like to do differently?
Mm-hmm.
What thing could you do to help with improving that to get it to where you want?
Mm-hmm.
And get them thinking about that. Sometimes they'll look at you blankly, or they'll give us what they think is the right answer, and you can go, yes, that could be one. Don't ever say no. We can go, yes, that could be one. Let's try that and see what happens, and then reflect on what that has done and what that has achieved. If they get stuck, you can offer them different solutions, but not tell them which one is going to work, and get them to try it out, because then they can feel it, they can do it themselves. We learn so much through doing.
Yeah. And if they're trying to build knowledge up, like within a group situation, we're trying to get them to actually build more knowledge rather than have the answers from us, it's really important that you pose questions like how, what would happen next, what impact would that have, why do you think the character might feel that way? So it's about putting the hows, the whys, the ifs, the maybes in there, rather than just going yes or no to an answer. Yeah, so it's about opening up those lines of inquiry and also feeding back off other people as well and seeing it from a different point of view. And I think that's really empowering sometimes, particularly in the arts, because we've had lots of students that are 100% convinced that their dance or their music or their drama is portraying this to the audience, for example, because that's what they feel, but the perception to the audience is very different. So it's opening it up to that objective feedback as well to come in.
And that's the tricky thing though with the arts, it is so subjective, and because of how things are portrayed and how they are received, they will vary, and they will vary from one person to another. You can do a performance to 100 different people and get 100 different opinions.
Yeah.
Being aware of all those different ways and being able to explore all those different ways will help build that knowledge base up. And
by going through a process where there isn't necessarily, be careful to say this, sometimes there is a right and wrong way of doing something from a technical point of view, for the safety, for the technique that you're trying to ensue, but there's not always a right and wrong way of every connection story process. If you go through developing knowledge in the arts thinking, well, that's the right answer, that's the wrong answer, like in a yes and no format, or I've got to now do this again because that's the way the teacher wants it done, says it has to be done, that's the only right way it's done, then it stops the creativity, but also stops you being able to process it when everybody takes something different from it. And that's the nature of the arts. That's it. You can't take that away. It's not, well, no, I was doing this, then that's right, they should have seen it. They might not get it, because everybody's different. Everybody sees different, hears different, feels different. So in order for the person to process that, you've got to teach them and guide them in a way that allows them to understand that as well. So again, that comes back to, there's not just a right or wrong answer. It's not just this knowledge and then that's the way it goes. Because equally, that feeds people being judgy of others, and then I've seen people go to the performance and go, oh, they didn't do that right, or use that tempo, did they? Or they didn't do that. And you kind of go, well, no, they've made the choice to do this, and this is their interpretation of it. Yeah. So in a world where we're trying to get people to be creative, think for themselves, problem solve, we can't do that if we're just always imparting right and wrong knowledge from one viewpoint.
No, I always say to my students, particularly music students who are reading notation, the dots on the page are black and white.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is just a whole shade of various shades of grey.
Mm-hmm.
And no one gets taught. The big composers back in the day would get really annoyed with their students if they played the same piece of music twice in a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
Because the whole point of the arts is to have that structure, but then your interpretation, and that interpretation should never be the same twice, because your skills, your learning set, your ideals, your beliefs, everything of who you are should be changing minute by minute, because you take on new information from everything that you do. So nothing should ever be done the same way twice.
If you go and watch some of the big musicals, there's been a big rework, hasn't there, of a recent musical, and the original director was involved in the rework, and it's changed so much. The audiences were like, oh, I'm not really happy with this, it's changed. He said, but it's had to change because society has changed and people's experiences have changed, so I've changed it to be more adapt and link with the new audiences that are coming through. And once you've realised that and go through that process, that's quite amazing. That's amazing to evolve like that. So yeah, it's very dangerous to think, well, I've got this knowledge, I've got to share this is the way to do it. We've got knowledge which enables us to unlock the lock, open the lid on the box, creak the door open, to guide and support them through to take their next step. I think that's the best way to think about it.
Very much. And be aware though that also some students will come to you because you have that knowledge and you have those credentials, but the last thing they need is that knowledge, because they need to stop making everything so technical, because they're missing out on that personal connection within the arts. And actually they need that other side to come through. So they will be asking for answers, and I have flat out refused to give them to students before, because they are focusing so much on technique, they're losing out.
Sometimes it's okay to say you don't have the answer to.
Oh,
so it's not just refuse, just actually go, I don't know, let's find out together. And that is the most empowering flip. Even if sometimes you do know, you can say you don't, to be part of that process, because some of the most magical moments I've had with students is when they've gone, well, you don't know. Oh, and suddenly they're with you, find out the information. You're still guiding how, but then they come to it, and then the empowerment they feel, and then you find they don't need you much longer because they're going off doing it on their own, which is amazing. So yeah, have a little go, have a little think about how often you splurt knowledge out because you feel like you have to. Do you ever say no, that you haven't got the answer? Do you ever encourage other students or your peers to go find it out and come back, or experiment and play? And how much do you feel like you have to prove your knowledge as well? Because that's a whole other realm we could go down, isn't it?
Yes.
You know, you don't need to prove it sometimes. You're allowed to sit with it and use it to facilitate others. So yeah, think about it. Do you need to share your knowledge, or have you got that knowledge so that it can empower that unlocking of the door and allow people to flourish? Give it a go. Let us know how you get on. Or just come and have a chat, because it doesn't work out all the time, does it? It goes wrong as well. So yeah, get in touch. Speak to you soon.